Guten Tag, and welcome to another quality content module freshly ground by small beans, where ideas are always percolating. If you enjoy this pod, please consider joining our community over at patreon.com/smallbeans, where only $3 a month gets you access to double the content, including Patreon-exclusive series like Spiel Boys and Star Trek: The Next Futurama, plus bonus episodes of your SB favorites. Much love, and enjoy the thing.
Lights, camera, action! We're shooting threes, just SMB. We're gonna watch and review film trilogies. It's all for laughs, so just sit back. We're gonna drop dimes on this podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to Shooting Threes, where me and my co-host Bridget Greenberg were talking about movie trilogies, watching them as a whole. We just wrapped up How to Train Your Dragon. And on the very opposite spectrum of How to Train Your Dragon, we are super excited to share with you all that we are covering Park Chan-Wook's Vengeance trilogy.
Yeah, very different. You never know what to expect next.
No cutie pies in this one.
I mean,
The girl's cute.
the girl is cute.
No cutesy
No,
moments of oohing and awing.
no, let me tell you, it's not kid friendly, I guess. It's not
No, I don't even know if it was friendly for me, if I'm being completely honest. So the Vengeance trilogy, a little bit of background. It's not an official trilogy like we've covered in the past. In the past, we've done trilogies that are like plot. Movie A feeds to movie B, moves to movie C. It is plot. It is character arcs. This is more of like a genre, a theme trilogy.
And the theme being vengeance.
Yes. So we are starting with the first film of this trilogy called Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance.
Yes, 2002's Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance.
Yes. It won. I feel like it was I have notes here. Actually, when I was looking up like some of the background of this movie, so to like no surprise, was like Tarantino like loved this film. He was kind of instrumental in like bringing it to American audiences, playing at the New Bev, his theater.
Well, also, I mean, the most famous movie of this trilogy is the second installment of it, Old Boy.
Yes.
And I think Old Boy blew up so much in the States that a lot of people ended up going back and watching it, starting back with this movie. So when I looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes, a lot of the reviews for this 2002 movie were from like 2005 and on.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't catch that. I did see that originally, like the aggregate score for this movie is only 56%.
I was super surprised at the Rotten Tomatoes because this feels
that's crazy.
This feels like, and again, this is kind of assuming that you haven't seen Old Boy. I would have assumed, without having seen Old Boy, that the audience score would have been super low and the critic score would have been super high. And it is the opposite. Because this movie is kind of slow.
I suppose it is.
I think just like the pace and the rate at which like main plot points happen, there's a lot. I mean, it's a long movie. It's 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like very long, like it's a little artsy for a revenge movie. And so I thought that would have pushed the critic score higher and the audience score lower.
Yeah.
But it was the opposite. And at the end of the day, fuck Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I mean, I just think like, I don't know, maybe this was like post 9/11, we didn't want to see shit like this in movies, or like what the critics' point of view was on this. I think it's confidently made. I wasn't expecting like 100%, but I certainly not 56.
And I do think it's very different from Old Boy. So if you came in expecting Old Boy, like I think a lot of the American audience did, it's very differently paced.
Yeah.
Very differently paced. This movie is slow. It's really slow. There's a lot of kind of meandering scenes.
Yeah, and I think like especially in the first half of the movie, they do get through the plot, but it's kind of quiet. Like they don't make a big to-do about things. We were talking about this before we started recording, but like things were happening. It's like, oh, okay, I thought they were going to make a big deal of that. But no, it just happened, and that is what it is. And now we're moving on to the next part of the film.
There's no soundtrack to it. There's almost no score in this.
No.
The score is almost entirely people crying or screaming.
Yeah, very unnerving.
Very unnerving. There is a my boyfriend was upstairs. He knows what these movies are, but when he's like, "Are you just watching people cry?" He came downstairs and was like, "Are you just watching people crying on loop?" And then he realized what I was watching, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this is people crying."
You're like, no, this is Too Fast, Too Furious. Do you not remember that this is movie?
We talked about this. These are my podcasts. Why
exactly.
don't you know this? Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's like really all the background you need. This is also a Korean film, and Bridget and I have absolutely no experience or background with this language. So
sorry about.
We did our best to do a little pronunciation guide prior, but we're gonna have to give it to God on this one. And thank you to everyone who participated in this film. Great performances. I mean, it has to be great performances because it is all them.
The performances are so intense. The demands on the actors, just based on the story, are heavy. The stakes of this movie could not be higher, could not be heavier, and could not be more devastating. And these performances don't take you out of it for a minute. They are so good, and I can't imagine as an actor. I mean, our main character Ryu is mute and deaf.
Yeah.
And he is an emotional center of this movie without saying anything or being able to hear people.
Yeah, fun little factoid I found in some just light research. This is the first film in history to have a sex scene where the characters are signing with one another.
Yeah. I
mean, I don't know how many more movies that would happen in, but that's pretty fucking rock and roll.
Does that happen in Coda? I didn't see Coda.
That's about children of deaf adults, so I don't know if a sex scene would qualify that film. But I also didn't see it, so I don't know.
Yeah. That was a weird in the beginning where they're fucking and all the people that live like in the apartment between. Those I want a movie about those four dudes in that little railroad apartment, I guess. There are some very Lynchian kind of elements to this movie.
Yeah, dark, I think we can say.
Dark, but there are some just like strange non sequitur pieces.
Like almost absurd.
Yeah. That pop up a lot, and those four dudes
just cranking it.
Cranking it behind each other, like in a massage line.
Yeah, but it's because they think, oh, she's having an orgasm, but
no, she's crying in pain.
Yeah, she's in pain.
Yeah. And then they cut to them one other time, and they're like listening to a radio.
Yeah.
It's
these guys need a job.
Yeah.
Get a job.
Get a job in a bigger neighbors. You can get a bigger apartment, maybe. I don't know.
Bridget, you're gonna have to lead the way, plot wise, because I watched this movie last month.
So
I don't know about you, but I watched it in the middle of the day, and it still was like with the light outside and birds chirping. I was still enthralled.
I did have to watch this movie in 2 sittings.
Fair enough.
It is long, and again, the beginning, the events of this movie are kind of drawn out, where I watched it too late, and I was like, there's a lot of silence in between scenes. And by silence, I mean crying. Like 3-minute scenes of people just wailing in the background. So...
Want to dive in?
Let's dive in. So we open this movie, we have this deaf mute factory. Is that the mute?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
I think because he cannot hear, he cannot speak by extension of that. I think that's...
Okay.
I think that's the bag.
Yeah. He is... This deaf mute factory worker is seemingly his sister, who he lives with and takes care of him, needs a kidney transplant or she is going to die. We see her in immense pain, screaming on the floor. They need, I think, 10,000 won.
Yes, and I did do some math.
Hit us with the math.
In today's money, 10 million won is
10 million.
$8,053.03.
That's a chunk of change.
So that's a decent amount of
That's
money.
for a kidney transplant.
Yep.
She needs this to survive. He, untimely fashion, gets laid off from his job at the factory, and hears about this black market organ market, and decides that's how he's gonna get money for his sister's kidney. They demand 10 million won. It's all he has. He gives it to them. They end up stealing his kidney and running.
Yeah.
Mind you, this all takes place within like 30 minutes.
It
is
like,
a very stretched out movie. It took me a while to get. I ended up liking the movie. I think it's a movie that when it ends, you're like, shit, that's gonna stick with you. But as you're watching it, I felt like, let's keep this train moving.
Yeah, I guess because I watched it like in the middle of the day, I was kind of like buckled in for a bit of a slow burn.
Yeah.
I think for me, like talking about the pacing of the film, this is like one of the first moments where, as I was watching the movie, I kept thinking like, oh, so this is gonna be what the movie's about. It's gonna be about him getting this kidney, and now he's like stuck with this underground situation. But then like it just happens, and it's like, oh,
there is like
moving on.
Yeah, there are like 4 movies in one here, and I kept thinking, okay, now is going to be the time where it becomes the Vengeance trilogy. Like, I kept waiting for big action scenes, and that is not the right that's not what this movie is.
Yes.
I kept thinking what I've seen from Oldboy, and that's not this movie.
Yeah, not to like compare it to another Korean movie for the sake of comparing Korean movies, but I did say like it is kind of like Parasite in the way where it's almost like it's 2 movies where you're just like, okay, yeah, I get it now. Like, I understand what we're doing here and cool. And this is the movie. And then, oh.
No, I mean that.
Okay,
that
now
is,
this is the movie. And then, oh, this is the movie.
From the South Korean movies I've seen, like they do take their time setting up plots that turn and become different movies. Like there are in a lot of Korean movies that I've noticed, like several different movies happening.
Yeah, good time also to get to know the characters and have a reason to root for them, because that's something that bugs me when I see a movie. It's like I get out of the movie and it's like, okay, but I never gave a fuck about any of these characters. Who are they? Why should I give a shit? What about them makes them sympathetic?
Yeah.
And then here we're like, Ryu, obviously, like right out of the gate, we know what that's like to have medical bills that you can't pay and they struggle, and there's a lot to root for just in the first few minutes of the movie.
They set up the stakes very quickly, like these very high stakes very quickly that keep like the bar is set so high and it keeps raising in ways that you do not see coming.
Yeah.
And as a viewer watching this movie for the first time, you're like, what is going on? There are these long sequences where I think one thing's happening.
Trying to figure it out.
And then it turns into a completely different movie, which again makes it like, as a first-time viewer, kind of a drawn-out watch, but at the end, you're left with a lot to think about.
I said that recently. Somebody we know is about to watch The Godfather Part 2 for the first time.
Oh, what?
And I sat down, committed 3.5 hours to the full director's cut, the whole 9. I said I had to turn my phone off and put it in my bathroom and shut the door. Yeah. Like I literally had to like eliminate distractions.
Yeah,
and
you need to be
that's another movie where you're watching and you're like, oh, Christ almighty, this is an hour of just like what?
Yeah.
But then by the end of it, you come to appreciate like, oh, wow, that was like a whole
journey
experience. Yeah, like a 12-course meal.
Yeah. But yeah, so he basically, Ryu gets fucked. He gets his kidney stolen, his money stolen. The doctor basically calls him the next day and says like, oh, we have a kidney match for you, but we need this money. And he just spent all his money.
Yeah.
And is down a kidney.
Boy, isn't that a little bit of a foreshadow of how this movie's going to go? Yeah. Like, it's like, oh, God damn it. Oh, wait, everything's working. But, Oh, no, it's not.
Oh no, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Ryu has this cool ass, I get, anarchist girlfriend
Yes.
who
Played by Bae Doona-young. I think the girlfriend's name is Mi-cha. And I just want to point out, if you've seen The Host, she's the archer in that movie. She's also in Sense8, which I haven't seen, but
No.
The Wachowskis. So
yeah,
want to bring, she's
great.
She's around. Yeah, she's around.
So yeah, he has this anarchist girlfriend who they kind of start talking about, ways they could save his sister, and one of the things that she comes up with is they should kidnap his boss or his former boss's kid. And they kind of quickly realize that that's too obvious to trace back to him.
Yeah.
It gets a little I got lost a little bit here.
I got a little bit choppy here too.
This is definitely where, and I think it's always helpful if you watch a foreign language film to go back and read the plot, because there are things that happen where you just like kind of miss these little transitional moments
Right.
in the translation. But ultimately they decide the better route to take is not kidnap his former boss's child, but kidnap his former boss's friend's daughter, who is also a part owner of the factory.
Which, I guess I could have looked this up. I don't know much about this happening in Korea, but I feel like that's like a thing in other countries that's like, it's kind of like as common as like bribing the police. We're like, oh, it's just like a light kidnapping.
Yeah,
it's like a light kidnap. Nothing like weird and sexual. We just want the money.
It's just just to send a quick ransom note. It's not
quick.
No one's gonna get hurt. Everyone's gonna get treated well.
Exactly.
Just
a light kidnapping.
Just take an 8-year-old away from their parents for a couple days.
Foolproof plan.
Obviously, so they this is also a little confusing, and I
don't know how they kidnapped her.
They don't. This was, I think this is another like kind of,
because when they're
cultural filmmaking difference where I feel like in an American movie, this movie would mostly probably be about the kidnapping.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And the consequences of, and that's kind of where you think this is all gonna go. But they show them
at a park, right?
They show them. They show the father coming out of the bathroom, and Ryu puts a bag over his head and leaves him, ties him up somewhere, and then all of a sudden he has his daughter.
Yeah, which that also, the image of him taped to that pole.
Yeah.
Later when he's just screaming for help, that's also like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Damn.
A lot of really tough, visceral, tough images.
Yeah, but I guess like the kidnapping, like, again, this might be a cultural difference, but maybe it's as simple as like, hey, like, your parents hired us to take care of you.
Yeah, well,
so you're gonna be staying with us. I think that's a lie that they told her, right?
Yeah, and also the sister. So
yes, definitely.
So Ryu's sister is not told of this plan, and basically Ryu all of a sudden has this little girl, and he lives with the sister. And I missed this part because this was also confusing to me. I guess he just tells the sister, "I'm babysitting this kid for a couple days."
Yeah.
And she's,
but also maybe not even cultural. I mean, that could be like rich people shit too. Like,
I mean,
you hear about like kids growing up with like their nannies and like kind of being passed around in that way.
Yeah, cultural in that, like, or maybe I just like blinked and missed it. I didn't see that.
Or it's cultural difference in that like you and I didn't grow up like that. So but definitely like I have been around like super wealthy people, and you'd be amazed at like how comfortable the kids are just like walking up and talking to anybody and just like, yeah, we can hang out. It's like,
yeah, I mean, I think more just because like, yeah, Ryu doesn't seem like the guy who took babysitting jobs before this.
No, but his sister seems very maternal.
Yes.
They seem to click right away.
Yeah, which is kind of one of, oh god, yeah. So so they're hanging out. That little girl like takes to Ryu. They start watching TV together.
I think they ask for 26 million won.
Yeah.
Okay, good, because I had written, I was like, I have this number.
I don't remember the exact number, but I'm gonna say yeah and just go along with you.
Yes, because this was my big question. Like, what? How much is that? So 26 million won is $20,000. No, let me read this properly. $20,937.87. So it's enough for the operation, and then like
A
you
little-
know,
a little-
I mean, you're gonna ask
I mean, there's
for the
gonna be-
return of the safe return of someone's daughter. Like you can crank that
You
number
can,
up,
yeah. There's some, yeah,
inflate it, fuck it.
yeah. You can put some,
Also, seemingly, I mean, if he's rich, what's
Just round up.
$20,000? I mean, I don't really think that's like
round
that's
up
like
to,
a month's worth of salary for this guy. Probably.
yeah. I would.
It's not nothing, but
It's not nothing
compared
yeah.
to the life of your child.
Yeah, and I'm sure kidney transplant. Then there's hospital. I don't know how the Korean healthcare
I mean, just
system
recovery.
works, but
Also, he's out of work.
he's out of work. They need
So,
groceries.
rent, yeah.
Take care of his sister after the surgery. Anyway, they're hanging out with this girl, and this little girl. She's adorable. She seems perfectly happy.
Everything's working out so well.
Everything's going great.
I'm having a blast. I'm watching the movie like, this is great.
What a good time.
They're a little rough around the edges, and sure, it's unethical, but no one's hurt. Everyone's
no,
gonna live.
I mean, well, I
Christ.
guess we'll talk about this later once we get to the end of the plot of this movie.
yeah.
But they're Ryu and this little girl he's out with no, right, the little girl isn't there, but Ryu's out hanging with his girlfriend. They're making plans to get the money from this guy. He comes back to his house. His sister has, in one of the more devastating sequences of this film, his sister has found some of his I don't know exactly what she found.
Was it not the ransom note?
It was the ransom note.
Yeah.
Found the ransom note, caught on to the plan and why they are doing this for her. Out of guilt, she kills herself
Yeah.
while the little girl is in the house. She doesn't seem to notice until Ryu comes home. And
Well, they have
finds
such a sweet scene, Ryu and this little girl, like
Yeah.
watching TV,
hanging
and-
out. Yeah, and she kills herself in the bathroom, so I assume the bathroom is closed. And yeah.
Yeah, and what did her notes say? It was something so like, I
Oh.
couldn't remember exactly what it said, but it was to the effect
Oh, I
of
wish
like,
I wrote it down.
you kidnapped this little girl. How could you?
Yeah.
And like that's the end of it.
Like his sister died because and mad at him.
Yeah,
Um,
like a true broken heart. And
yeah.
I'm not Korean. I am Japanese. I would assume it might be a similar beat here, but shame in the
Yeah.
Japanese community is there's a high suicide rate. It's unfortunately like pretty ingrained in the culture. I think in recent generations people are trying to like turn that around, of course, because it's just awful. But that's what I got the vibe. It wasn't even necessarily guilt because she didn't do anything wrong.
I mean, I think that's in any culture.
True. But I think especially like
Trust me, shame and guilt play quite a role in Jewish
Definitely.
communities.
Definitely, but like shame to the point of I can't even live with myself because I cannot continue living my life even with this new kid, even with everything working out. I could not live with
Right.
this knowledge for the rest of my life.
It becomes clear that more than she doesn't want to be. And this is certainly part of it, but the bigger point, not just being like a burden to him that he has to resort to this thing because of her. It's more that she couldn't live with herself finding out that
That's
he
it.
did this.
Yeah. And she is complicit.
Yeah.
I mean, even though like she's not really, she probably takes that full responsibility
Yeah.
because she was the number one caretaker of this girl.
Yeah. No, Ryu like almost dumps this girl on her. I mean, it doesn't really his sister, unlike him, is a very nurturing, sweet
Totally.
person. Ryu and his girlfriend are a little more rough around the edges.
Yeah.
Seem a little more beaten down, but his sister, despite all the pain she's in, seems like a very like sunshiny kind of
She
person.
is pure. Like she
Yeah.
truly is innocent. She is.
And she's like the first, well, not the first, but like because there's that dude who kills himself.
Oh, that's right. Who killed himself in front of that guy? We kind of skipped over that part, but that
Yeah.
is also kind of like the canary in the coal mine of like
This
things
movie's
to
gonna-
come. Which talking about shame.
Can you? Yeah. That happens. Yeah, that happens first. Sorry, I forgot the order of
because
sequence.
the Ryu and his girlfriend sees that happening,
Right.
and he has like the bodyguards and shit, and it's
Right.
like, oh yeah, we can't kidnap this guy's daughter,
Right.
but she's got the friend
right.
with
This
her.
is the boss's daughter, and then yeah.
But then even, this man is laid off. He he kills himself and hurts himself, it's out of shame because he no longer can provide for his family.
And that scene is awful to watch.
Yeah, again, kind of like the,
yeah,
it's gonna
again,
get here.
I say the movie's slow, but in between those scenes, there are some
I did not. You're saying slow. I just thought it was like, it wasn't fast. I thought of it more as like a slow burn.
It's a slow burn because you have these kind of they're long scenes. Like the scenes don't cut. Like they're
a lot of like placing the camera in front of actors and then just letting them
play out. And I think probably the lack of soundtrack makes it feel
you hear
less
the silence.
yeah
feel
less propulsive. But when these big plot points do happen, they are haunting.
Yep.
They really stick with you. Very visceral imagery in this movie that is hard to forget.
Yeah, and I was telling you earlier, but like when the reveal of like what the sister has done, I had just been watching the movie like silent, paying attention, just regular watching a movie. I literally could not stop saying no, 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 and I felt so much tension had built inside of my body at that point that I literally had to vocally release some of the tension. Yeah. This actually, just like as a side note, one of the reasons why I don't like turbulence on planes is because planes are kind of a quiet place.
Yeah.
And when I'm a little bit stressed out or a little bit anxious, it actually helps me to like vocalize some of that. But I can't be on a plane during some turbulence like, whoa, hey guys, whoa, it's really happening. Yeah. Wow, that was a big one, because that's like people are sleeping.
Yeah.
But definitely in this moment, it was like, I'm alone. Yeah. I can just be loud. I need to vocally release some air that has just been built inside of me.
Like I was talking about, we see, Ryuna's girlfriend, the scene before, kind of plotting. He comes back. They have this, she's watching cartoons. He tries to switch it to baseball. He ends up lying down. She sits on top of him in a very like playful, cute way, and they get like comfortable having this nice moment. And it's like a long moment.
Yeah,
it's a long, pretty silent.
I literally
movement.
was watching that foolish me, and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe one, this plan is working."
Right, and then
two,
like
it's gonna be okay.
Like she's happy and okay, and he'll get the money and return.
I think I was always expecting something to happen to Ryu or his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And then when it was the sister and it was self-inflicted it came from this place of how could you?
So shocking. I did. Wow. You screamed. I had maybe the deepest, most guttural gasp I've ever done in my life. It was truly like it can't, like all
of the air went inside you.
Yeah. Just all the air in the room. Just awful.
Imagine seeing this in a movie theater.
Yeah.
Like when it's like, especially when you're like really engulfed with the big screen and people around you. Wow. Yeah. I would have lost my mind.
I think I definitely, if it comes to theaters, I'd be like, watch it at home.
Jesus. Yeah.
Watch it at home. This is a movie that you should, I don't know, no movie is made, or at this point is made in 2002 is made to be watched at home, but
certainly, yeah, this is just, if you, definitely experiencing this movie for the first time in theaters would be like, you need to know.
Yeah.
You're about to sit down and watch something, because I don't know, I knew it was going to get violent, but I hadn't accounted for like
the darkness.
Yeah. And I thought the violence would be like, people like beating up on each other, and like gang members would be involved,
like
and
John
shady
Wick
characters.
Violence, where you're like, it's intense, but really what you're watching is choreography more than anything.
Yeah.
That's not this. You are watching violence and all of its consequences.
It's definitely a movie of consequences.
It's definitely a movie about consequences. But yeah, you see this devastating scene where Ryu's sister has killed herself, and now he is taking her to this countryside place. I guess
I don't know where they are.
I didn't put this together in plot synopsis. It says like a place they went to as children.
Oh, I think doesn't the movie open there?
Yes.
I'm almost positive the movie kind of starts with a prologue of the two of them there. Yes, they're kind of talking about like skipping rocks and stuff.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So he goes to bury her at this river that they went to and played at as children.
Just when you think it really just cannot get worse.
Yeah, in maybe the toughest. The sequence of events is so fucking tough. God damn, I like am having a hard time recapping it.
You don't want to say it out loud.
Because it's so dark, it's so hard to be like, yep, that's what we watched, and we're gonna discuss it on this fun movie podcast.
Yeah, Jesus H. I mean, it's not gonna get easier. Just for the record,
it does not get easier at any point. So many of you wanted us to do this, and why?
I know this. Actually, I did see.
It's great. It's a good movie.
Yeah. So I'll take on the burden of this because you had to do the last one. So he is giving his sister like this burial. He's covering her with rocks. You know, I don't know if it's like literally tradition or it looks like ceremony. Either a ceremony he's making up in real time or something pre-existing. The girl, Yusun, that they've kidnapped, she's in the back of the car. By the way, like, this dead body's in this car. This girl's in there. It's like,
oh my God, the scene of them driving out, I think even more than, I mean, it was kind of just like injury upon injury, which is what this movie is, but like, the drive out where, again, the soundtrack of this movie is truly different people crying.
Yeah.
Because he is in his sister's dead body is in the back seat. This little girl is with him. And in this long scenic shot of them driving down the beautiful Korean countryside, this little girl is just crying in the back. And it is heartbreaking to see.
Yeah, and he can't even really effectively communicate to her, like, what's going on.
She's been so happy up until this point.
Yeah.
In a what little it seems like she doesn't even realize is a dark situation.
No.
Is just
she has no idea she's been kidnapped.
Yeah, and is just sobbing in the back seat in a way that is so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
For like this 2-minute sequence of driving.
So he's burying his sister. His back is turned to the river, to the car. Again, he can't hear.
Yeah.
So he's in terrible mourning. I mean, even if he could it be focused on literally anything else?
Yeah.
I can't remember. Did some guy approach the car?
There is some.
Yes. Okay. Actually,
this is another kind of like Lynchian element where there is someone living at the river.
He has cerebral palsy.
Yes.
And I'm under the impression that this is maybe someone who is homeless, and because of his disability, he's really not able to take care of himself.
Right.
So these are the circumstances he finds himself in.
He seems to live by this river.
Yes. He approaches the car, probably just out of pure curiosity.
Yeah.
Stranger danger.
Yeah, there's
frightened by this man. She starts to run across a bridge towards Ryu, trying to scream and yell and get his attention. I don't know if she fully understands that he literally cannot hear her, or if she's just,
trying to do anything
or if
to get her.
She's just freaked out. Know. Yeah, she's just freaked out. And as she's running across the bridge, I was like, oh my God, I know what is about to go down.
I was so trying to hope that anything else happened in this moment.
After the sister killed herself, I was like, yeah, if a bomb fell on somebody in this movie, I now am prepared for anything, because that really swept me off my feet.
My brain did not want to go there, so I was just even more
the
whole time I was like, no, and I like wasn't I was prepared, but I still was shocked by what happened, which is great filmmaking.
Yeah, so she in running across the bridge slips. Bridge gives way. We're not entirely sure.
Yeah,
they don't necessarily show this beat for beat, but we do see in the background of Ryu burying his sister, splashing. She's fallen into the river. She can't swim. She's trying to get his attention.
Oh my God.
Of course, he just has no idea that this is happening. And the next time we see poor Yusun, she has drowned. And is floating on top of the river.
It's truly a horrible image.
Ryu,
so affecting. That is maybe like
just that still shot of her.
That still shot is in my brain forever. That and his sister in the bathtub is like those two shots, those two images are in my brain forever now.
But it's a moment, but they don't really make a meal of it. it's
No.
enough to see it even for a glimpse. You never forget what that
No,
looks like.
and that there's a real subtlety to this movie that I think makes it so haunting and so affecting, is that these moments of like true horror and tragedy are played in such simple shots. Um, like from just there's one shot of her in the river, it's just her in the bathtub.
Yeah.
There's no blood, you don't really see anything.
It's not like a torture porn. It's not
No.
it all happens in real time.
No, even
And
like,
unfortunately,
and when
like,
he gets
that-
his kidney stolen, if we remember that, where this
Yeah,
all
he
starts,
blacks out, he comes back, and it's gone.
it's just like there's a scar there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you know.
like it's I mean, the real sting of it all, I think, is played in like the silence of the movie,
Yep.
and that you just hear crying, you just hear screaming, you hear pretty much silence.
Yeah, the human experience is enough, though, right?
I mean,
Death is enough. Like, you don't need to really make a thing of that. It's like,
No. it's not a gory movie. There are elements of it, like there's an autopsy that they
Sure.
linger on that's tough to
Yeah.
watch, but like, yeah, it's just so simple and it's so effective, and I cannot shake it.
Yeah. Again, I saw this a month ago, and I was like, I don't know, it might be a little bit plot weird, but as we're talking, I'm like, oh no, I remember every fucking second of this movie.
Yeah.
So I can't remember if Ryu is like walking back to the car when he realizes, or
I think she floats up onto the bank where he is, but now he has to bury a second body
yes,
at that place.
yes. Meanwhile, as all this is going on, we do see Yu-sun's father, played by Song Kang-ho,
Yes,
Mr. Park,
we
is
yeah,
Yu-sun's father. Song Kang-ho, you know him from every movie
yeah,
that has ever been made in Korea.
yeah.
I would love for him to. He just needs to make like one American movie to win an Oscar. But
I
talk
mean,
about somebody who I think really should be recognized
He
for
really
his
should.
contribution. He should have been nominated for
For
Parasite.
Parasite,
Yeah,
it's crazy that none of them, like, it's maddening that none of them were nominated,
truly.
because like that,
it's racist. It's Academy members didn't want to learn those names.
yeah,
Academy members didn't really make any kind of conscious effort to recognize them as individuals.
this man is so good. He carries so much emotion in his face.
He's got a great fucking face.
He's got such an expressive. He wears pain on his face, like
guilt,
guilt.
because guilt is really where we find Mr. Park. He
Yeah.
is like destroyed. I'm under the impression he and his wife are separated.
Yeah, we don't really see her.
And he is really feeling the
Yeah.
weight of, I cannot believe I let my daughter
Yeah,
get away. That's the impression I got, that it's not just like, oh my God, this guy,
this is all unsaid, but you see it in the performance. Completely.
yeah. And again, like he just wears that
yeah,
so well.
Yeah, the
It's so
devastation.
funny. I wouldn't necessarily describe him as having an expressive face, but it's very readable.
yes,
It doesn't take much for him to like, yeah, wow, I really understand where your character's coming from.
yeah. The emotion is
Palpable.
Is just
A
there.
great on-camera actor. Yeah, he really, like in the Western world, this man needs some kind of laurel like
Yeah,
soon, because he's really
he's
a globally
he's a-
recognized and extremely talented actor.
yeah.
So Mr. Park,
Yeah, we kind of just cut. We see this. His daughter's dead, and then we just kind of cut to a couple weeks later, and news has got back to him.
is it a couple weeks or
I think it's 2 weeks.
okay
Later we pick up with them
that they
and-
had found her body?
Yeah, yeah. It does. These are like the little transitional moments that the movie is not that concerned about.
Mm.
That maybe, and again, that I think maybe is a cultural thing that, like, as an American viewer, I'm kind of used to seeing like
They really
like,
hold your hand and
new-
spell it
new-
out because
yeah,
you're an
news
idiot.
travel and
Yeah.
stuff. But like, I didn't need it. Like, we just cut. It's a little while later. He finds out everything that happens.
He's destroyed. I mean, he's
yeah.
like really talk about guilt and shame. I mean, he is.
Yeah.
And that I think is such a smart choice. Like, it's not fear, and it's not necessarily like, oh my God, what could they be doing to her? Blah, blah, blah. It's more like, I can't believe under my watch I let my daughter
Yeah,
get kidnapped. It's very like he is blaming. He takes the full responsibility
yeah,
for what has happened, and then in death, I think that continues, but we already see that he's like, okay, I'm ready to find the fucking person who did this now, and
Right.
it's over. Keeping in
Right.
mind, the movie is called Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. He is the titular.
Yeah, so
Vengeance.
this is now the third movie
Yes,
that we
which,
are
by the
in.
way, the Korean title of this film directly translates to Vengeance is Mine, which I really like that.
Oh, that's
Because
good.
actually, and this is kind of
Because
interesting too.
because there's so many people are thinking they're getting
Vengeance.
Because
Yeah.
even like
Ryu is going to have a moment of vengeance
Ryu
later.
still is like now we're in the vengeance part.
Yeah, and actually, when it was like Mr. Park, especially talking to the detectives and recovering whatever, yeah, that's actually the time in the movie where I was like, actually, fuck Ryu. Like,
Yeah.
actually, yes, him and his girlfriend. I'm sorry, fuck them. Like,
Well,
they,
yeah.
you know, I get it. They did what they had to do, but like, Jesus Christ,
Well,
now it's at the cost of 2 lives.
I mean, I think this is like a major quote from this movie that comes at the end. We haven't gotten to this part yet, but we've been circling it. So as we're recapping the movie, I'm realizing like, yeah, that whole line sums up this whole movie where Mr. Park says, I can see you're a good man, that's why I have to kill you.
Yeah.
And I still have to kill you. Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing there. But that is the whole movie. Like, all these people are... I mean, anybody could be either Ryu
Yeah,
or
actions
could be...
have consequences is the theme of this film.
Both Ryu and, and the father, both could be Mr. Vengeance.
Yep.
And it doesn't serve anybody in the end.
Yeah. Actually, I was talking about the moment where I was like, oh yeah, actually fuck Ryu a little bit. It wasn't necessarily the detective. I mean, I was definitely feeling for Mr. Park. Again, Song-hae was just like so easy to be on his side. It was the funeral. Yu-sun's funeral.
Yeah.
Her mother is, I mean, collapsing. How the fuck can you possibly...
Another add to the crying soundtrack of this silent crying
Yes, and
soundtrack.
Ryu has gone to the funeral just kind of on the outskirts to pay his respects. And actually, when I saw him there, I was like, oh, fuck you. Like, sorry, I'm on your team. You're like a little bit the protagonist of this film, but like, don't go to the fucking memorial service.
No.
Like, please. You're the reason she's dead. I'm sorry. It was an accident, but ultimately this chain of events started when you and your girlfriend did this thing.
Yeah. But yeah, so now the movie becomes kind of the third movie of this singular movie.
Yes.
Where we watch Mr. Park and this detective kind of trace back what happens.
Ooh, when they're in the sister's apartment and Mr. Park has the photo that they had taken of Yu-sun to prove like she's alive.
Yeah.
And he puts it up with the wallpaper. It's like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Because like, imagine that's you. You know, it's like, oh God, you motherfuckers. I know you were here. So
now everybody's kind of going scorched earth. Like Ryu is trying to track down the people who
stole his kidney.
Because
also, had that sequence of events
none
not
of this would have happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
it seems like everyone's trying to go back to the beginning to like start a new chain of events that would lead to somebody feeling some kind of justice.
Yeah, and it's all a moot point.
Yeah.
But so we see that Mr. Park and the detective are trying to find out who did this. They trace it back to his girlfriend, who is part of this anarchist organization, as she says. In a bit of comedy that I might have missed, but when I was reading the plot synopsis, she is the only member of her anarchist group.
Okay, I wasn't sure, so I think we could just cut ahead to he finds her apartment. He breaks in under the guise of being like a food delivery service.
Yeah.
Tortures her real fucking good.
Oh my God. So the detective sets up this torture plan to try to get Ryu's
Was the detective involved or was Mr. Park going rogue?
Oh, was it Mr. Park? I thought it was a different person, but...
No, it's Mr. Park that does the torturing.
Okay.
Definitely.
It is. You're right.
I was under the impression, again, I watched this like last month, but I was under the impression that like he had some kind of like PI.
Yeah. Okay.
Or like he was working with the detective and he was kind of like piecing things out on his own. And
he goes rogue, but there's another, he has an accomplice who's torturing his girlfriend.
Oh, I thought it was Mr. Park.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Maybe I'm getting confused. One of us is right.
I could do a little wiki.
The-
I just thought it was Mr. Park because the way she is
No.
tortured is so violent. It's like, this is personal.
No, because he's doing. I thought it was a different. I could have sworn it was a different person. The dude who licks her ears. That torture scene is just nuts. Whoever it is.
I'm looking this up. This is killing me.
Yeah. Well, so it breaks into the girlfriend's apartment. Ties her to when she comes in. Ties her to a chair. And hooks up these. They look like what you would jump a car with. To her ears. Connects it to a stereo, I believe, and just electrocutes her to death in one of the most visceral.
It is Mr. Park.
It is Mr. Park. Okay.
Meanwhile, Dongjin. This is the other thing too. So, in Korean names, the first name is the family name.
Yes.
Okay, so Wikipedia is going by their first names. But I know the character so well as Mr. Park that I'm like, who's Dongjin? It's Park Dongjin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, tortures her with electricity, also killing the delivery man who comes to her apartment. Okay, we don't have to get into like how she's tortured. It's
pretty brutal.
graphic. Okay, so what I was gonna bring up is that she says, I have this anarchist terrorist group, and
they'll find you.
They're gonna. Okay, I genuinely thought in that moment, oh, she's just full of shit. She's just saying this to try to keep herself alive and to seem like a threat, and like she's doing everything she can to survive.
So
this moment.
I think so there is a group that she is trying to start that she is the only member of, but she is also part of a separate terrorist group. I think.
Okay, I just thought everything she was saying was a fucking lie.
I thought it was a lie too, but then in the end,
yeah, which we can get there. So yeah, Mr. Park is just he fucks her shit up to death.
It's that torture scene with the electrocution.
Eating too, like he's
with the electrocution. You think it's gonna end, and it does not end.
Yeah.
Yeah. He electrocutes her to death in like a pretty brutal fashion. And
but notice how with her he has to put a blank, like he can't even look at the full extent of what he's doing to her, which I think is interesting that like he still has that bit of humanity.
Yeah.
But of course, his daughter has been brutally killed in his mind.
Yeah.
Has been brutally killed, and like God only knows what.
Yeah.
He has to assume the worst.
Yeah.
But he's still, I think because she's a woman too, it's like, listen, I'm about to fucking fuck your shit up, but I can't watch like the light leave your eyes.
I also thought it was a sound thing.
Oh, to muffle the screaming?
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense too, yeah.
But it doesn't really, because you hear it.
Oh yeah. So she's brutally tortured to death. I think meanwhile, Ryu is tracking down this underground black market, whatever.
Yeah.
He manages to find them. They are fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
This is the part of the movie where Ryu is Mr. Vengeance.
Yeah, Ryu finds these organ dealers. They have a dead body on the table that one of them is about to fuck, while the other is just like...
Definitely. I was under the impression that body was alive and just under anesthesia.
Probably, because they probably can't harvest organs from a dead body.
Right.
I don't know too
much
Ryu,
about the
business.
when they stole the kidney, I mean, they left him naked. Like, they didn't even have the fucking decency to
put clothes
back on him.
No. He breaks in and brutally murders them too. Fucks their shit all up.
Yep.
And a pretty awful scene.
And those people just flat out deserved it.
Yeah,
they just flat out deserved all
suck.
that.
Those black market organ dealers, bad people.
Definitely. Definitely.
But meanwhile, Mr. Park has tracked down Ryu's apartment and is waiting there for him to come home as Ryu is waiting for Mr. Park to try to kill him. Ryu thinks he just missed it. He goes home. Mr. Park has rigged his door handle with electricity, so the minute Ryu touches his door handle to come in, he is electrocuted to death and also killed.
He's killed? I thought he was taken to the river and then killed.
He was taken to the river and then killed.
Yeah.
That is very important.
Yeah.
He was taken to the river and then killed.
He's knocked,
He is knocked unconscious, And
that's a great scene between the two of them, too.
Yeah.
Because it is a reckoning, and
And no one walks away feeling like they've accomplished or
No.
like got what they wanted.
No,
out
and
of
maybe
this.
that's the movie is like, you could be as violent as you want. You can destroy anybody you want to destroy,
you
but
can
at the end of the day, that doesn't bring back.
Revenge doesn't like heal
No.
anything. But yeah, he kills Ryu at that river where his sister and Mr. Park's daughter is buried. The man who lives there with cerebral palsy is there and is wearing the necklace that his daughter was wearing in the picture.
Yeah.
And that's where he finds his daughter's body.
No, they already found the body.
Oh, they already found the
Yeah.
body. Yes, he realizes she's buried there. But then he turns around and Ryu's girlfriend's anarchist group
has found him. Yeah.
Beats him up to death, stabs him, and they leave him dying by the river, and that is where the movie ends.
Yeah, again, consequences. Actions have consequences.
Yeah, when the movie ended like that, I was like, yeah, I mean, that's where it had to end. I should have seen that coming, but I still didn't.
Yeah.
It was still so shocking when the credits hit. And I was like, okay, so this feeling that I've been feeling this entire 2.5 hours is, where this movie's gonna leave me.
Was there not a scene where Ryu's sister was found by the disabled man by the river?
Yes. There was, because there was an autopsy.
But I can't remember, like, what.
Because there was an autopsy that we're missing. See.
It's Yu Sun's.
It's Yu Sun's yeah.
Because I remember Mr. Park was like, no, this is my daughter. I want to see and I want to know what happened to her and why she died. I think that was more of like, I need to know what happened to her.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember seeing that scene, but I can't remember like if it had any kind of like consequence to it or what that necessarily brought about. I guess like contextualizing a scene I kind of remember seeing, it's just kind of, I mean, for Ryu, the fact that he is killed in this movie, it is a little bit like, well, yeah, it's either you're gonna die or you're gonna go to prison.
Right.
And like maybe sentenced to death. I don't know what those laws are like in Korea, but like.
But honestly, he doesn't have a lot of options left. Like he's out of a job.
Everyone he loves is dead.
Everyone he loves is dead. Like he's kind of left in this. He's
also
down a kidney.
Yeah, he is also disabled. This isn't like, oh, I could just run away and start new life somewhere. I mean, he could, but there are obstacles for him.
Right. It's not
as simple.
That's not an easy task for anybody, but much less someone who
can't communicate.
Who has hard time communicating. It's a devastating fucking movie.
Yeah.
It's really a bummer of a film. Beautifully done, beautifully shot, leaves you with like so many things to ruminate on about the nature of like vengeance and grief and revenge and like, does that mean anything? And some imagery that, like, again, is so hard to get out of your head. It's a watch. Recommend this carefully to people.
Would you say it's a morality tale? Because I would say that.
In the darkest way possible,
yeah,
yes.
Normally when I think of a morality tale, I think of like a Tyler Perry movie. That's like, I mean, a lot of morality movies in America are tied to like Christianity and purity and these sorts of themes. This is like morality tale for the modern adult.
Sure.
Like, do you see how doing things unethically leads to failure? Because like, had he not gone to this black market,
I mean, ultimately your demise.
Yeah, had he not gone to this black market, he would have had the kidney. He just would have needed the money, which there are ethical ways to make money.
But I also think more than like it's a really bleak view of the world, because also I think morality tales like most horror movies are morality tales.
True.
Like, based in
again, that's why I say it's almost like Christian value because it's like the teen couple that has sex, like they're
the
killed.
Virgin makes it to the end of the movie. No one in this movie is good, but they're set up in a world where it's impossible to be good. Where that's even harder.
Yeah, that's why I say it's like
Ryu does that because it seems like at the time, like
he doesn't have any options.
He could have waited, but this was the option he had at the time. Like it seems like the world has pushed him to this place.
Yeah, I mean, because like I said earlier, like when Ryu's with Yusun and they're like watching TV and it's fine, it's like, oh, actually, like this is fine. Like, who did it hurt? Like, yeah, Mr. Park was like tied up to a pole for maybe a night, but okay, he survived. Like,
Right,
no one's dead.
I mean, it's a thing
yet.
of like, you're a good man and that's why you have to die.
Yeah,
He was doing that all to save his sister,
yeah.
who was dying. Like, it's...
Yeah, but how do you look in the eyes of a man whose 8-year-old is dead because of you and say, no, you don't understand. Like, I was trying to do
No, I mean,
the right thing.
I think Ryu feels, I mean, even before, it's not like he doesn't have a guilty conscience about
totally.
any of
Yeah,
this.
for sure.
It's not like he's not racked with guilt.
These are all good people that made bad choices,
that were pushed to make bad choices
Definitely.
by unfortunate circumstances. It's like more than...
Yeah, I mean, we're not even talking about like class being a big theme in this movie, of course.
Yeah. It's it's just more than that, like a very I don't know, realistic is a hard word to say, but like bleak, unflinching view of an unjust world.
Yeah.
And what like humans are up against.
Yeah, this conversation kind of reminds me of when I was in college, I got the opportunity to perform a couple of plays at a nearby prison.
Yeah.
It was a medium security prison, and we had a prison liaison because my school did like a program where some professors went to the prison to teach classes, and
Right.
when you're done like with your sentence, you could actually leave with an associate's degree. Like
Right.
the idea is like true rehabilitation.
Yeah.
And what she said, and I think about this all the time, she was like, look, every man that's in this prison broke the law. They did something wrong. They, no one that was watching the shows were like violent crime. She kind of reassured us, like,
right. Yeah.
anyone who did anything like seriously that hurt somebody else doesn't get the privilege of watching theater.
Right.
This
they're
is
not,
a certain...
They're not in medium security prison.
Yeah, but she said, every single person in there did something wrong. No doubt they are guilty and they are serving their time.
Yeah.
But imagine the worst thing you've ever done in your whole life. Like, really think about what that is. And imagine being punished for that every single day for years.
Yeah.
And I think that's really profound because those guys, honestly, they were some of the best audiences I've ever performed for.
Sure.
Afterwards, we did Q&As. They had great questions. They were well-researched. Many of them had read the play. And we did Shakespeare. That like they were like, oh, we read this and we studied this in our classes. And it was like, damn, I kind of wish every audience was as compelled. But also, these guys, they have nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So this is very interesting for them. And, it's like these guys are great, and we got to meet them and shake their hands and we didn't ask like so any info, nothing jackassy like that, but it really did kind of put into like a new perspective of like, yeah, right, like these guys may have like, robbed a gas station or something like that. Like, of course they did something wrong, but maybe they didn't have any other opportunities, and maybe they were pushed to the, maybe not. I don't want to speculate too much, but I don't know. It just kind of gave me
people have reasons for doing...
And, some people are in prison for, like, really not that much. They just got paired up with a terrible person to represent them, or, there's any number of reasons why people find themselves in tough situations. And we can't just assume the worst in people based on, like, the worst thing they ever did. Like, why not judge people on the best thing they ever did?
Right. Yeah, it's...
But then again, like, we don't think of O.J. Simpson as, like, a great football player.
Right.
It's complicated. It's nuanced, and I think this movie is an interesting character study, and I think it's kind of interesting, like, who's right, who's wrong. No one really, but also no one really.
It goes back to, the title of Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. Like, anybody could be Mr. Vengeance, and there's reason to have sympathy for everyone involved in this horrible, horrible chain of events that have happened. Everybody was just like a victim of
extreme circumstance.
And even like, I don't know how, where this movie all starts off. I don't know how extreme it is.
That's true. It
Like,
becomes extreme. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the stakes are high where his sister desperately needs his kidney transplant.
Yeah.
That is an extreme circumstance, but
And that's a really good stake too, because it's not just individual life or death; it's life and death of somebody you really love.
yeah. Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
someone you're dependent on and need. So
And I mean, there's that too.
that is the high stake. That is kind of like an unfortunate. I don't want to say rare, but like, maybe not everyday circumstance. I mean,
And you know what I did?
there are a million people who need kidney transplants.
Sure. And you know what I did think? I was like, man, if this movie took place like 10 years later, he could have started a GoFundMe.
Sure.
Fuck. Like, he was so close to
Just
like.
be on the internet, right?
Because again, they only needed like 8,000 something
They
USD.
could, they could crowdfund that.
Yeah.
They probably could. I mean, it sucks. Or they could have just. I don't know what the Korean healthcare system is, but if they have universal healthcare at post 2002, then none of this is a problem. But yeah, so like that's the high stake that this starts off, but then the other one is not like got laid off from a factory job.
Yeah.
That's where this chain of events started. Is just a layoff.
Yep.
Which is devastating and terrible, but not like that unusual of a circumstance.
Mhm.
These are just things that happen to people every day.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like just the shitty hand that you are dealt in by living in this world.
Yeah.
And the choices you make or feel like you're pushed to make or have to make, and
I think much like some of those guys I met in prison, one small like error in judgment can turn into another,
right, just every
and then it's like, well, shit, I'm deep. I'm
Yeah,
really deep into this in a way that I did not mean to be.
every action has a reaction. Like
Actions have consequences.
Yeah. That's what this movie's about, and it's devastating, and it will stick with you. And we got 2 more.
Yup.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Lady Vengeance.
I don't know anything about Lady Vengeance. Have you seen Old Boy? Have you seen
I have
parts
not.
of Old Boy?
I have not. I'm familiar with what Old Boy is. I know what the plot is. The big like spoiler is kind of one of those that like
Sure,
I heard
yeah.
about forever ago. Do you remember there was like an American remake
Yeah, with Josh
with
Brolin.
and Elizabeth Olsen?
Oh, I didn't realize that was her.
Yeah.
It was apparently terrible.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually part of the reason why I haven't seen Old Boy is that for a long time I didn't know that there was an original, and I was like, oh, I just heard everyone just like fucking hated it.
Oh, no, okay, yeah, so Old Boy was one of those movies that, when I went into film school, like, every, like, alternative
They're like, you gotta
kid
watch
was
this.
like, Old Boy's a movie, Old Boy's a movie. I've never watched it in full.
Yeah.
I've seen bits and pieces of it.
I'm looking this up, but Park Chan-Wook, he certainly is like a Palme d'Or winner or some shit like that.
Yes.
Like, certainly, I mean, this
Yes,
is like
he's
one
a-
of the best directors in the
He
world.
also did Decision to Leave, which is up for Best Foreign Picture
I need to
this
see
year.
that. Oh, and
Um,
The Handmaiden. That's
And
the
The
other.
Handmaiden.
Yes, best
Which are
direct-
two other great-
Yes, for Decision to Leave, he won at Cannes Best Director.
And Decision to Leave, I've seen it very much like this. It's a detective story, and it's long, and it feels like there are a couple different movies within one movie, a couple different stories that are being told.
Mm.
And you do get these kind of like long scenes of like what is going on here to these tough
And I guess to
plot
be a
points.
completionist, we also need to watch his like first big commercial success film is called Joint Security Joint Security Area.
Area.
Sorry, I can't pronounce the Korean words or the English words.
Both
But
are hard.
apparently, so when this movie came out in 2000, it was like the highest grossing film in Korea. Like, it was like the Titanic of Korea.
Oh, wow.
And actually, like, it was through the profit and like the goodwill that he and Song Kang-ho made.
Yeah.
Making Joint Security Area.
Oh.
They were able to fund and create this movie, which I guess it was received well by Korean audiences, but then Western audiences were like not into it at the time. I wonder,
or just didn't make it over for whatever reason.
Yeah, I'm talking more about like the Rotten Tomatoes aggregate.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I wonder like what I know. Sometimes some publications will do like a revisit of something that they reviewed prior to see like, have we changed our opinion on this?
I think there are like Decision to Leave is another movie where I had to go back and kind of like reread the plot because there I felt like with that, especially because it's a detective story and there are some like intricate plot pieces.
Yes.
To just in the nature of like the crime and what happened, and you're seeing it from a couple different points of view, that I had to go back and read. So I wonder if that's like that, where it's just like there are things in the American translation of it all that get kind of lost or muddied and make it
Yeah,
a
you
little
get
hard
caught
to
on
follow.
like trying to remember somebody's name, and then by the time you're kind of like cut back in, you're like, oh shit, I can't speak Korean. Wait, fuck, I didn't read. Oh wait,
Yeah.
damn it.
I mean, clearly you heard that in the synopsis of this movie. Even
Definitely.
I
Well,
got
that's
caught-
also devastating. Like, you know, you get a phone notification. It's like, oh, let me just see what this is.
and
it's
then you're like,
wait, I don't understand Korean.
right?
Well, I need to
yeah,
read.
you start
Fuck,
hearing.
wait,
people-
I was so, you know, because you get like, I don't have a problem watching foreign films. It's easy for me. I mean, I watch everything with subtitles. I think most people do anyway.
at
So
this
like,
point, yeah.
it's part of the practice. But then I do
But
sometimes
then you
forget, like,
yeah.
wait, I don't speak this
Right,
language
I need
at
to
all.
read-
I got
yeah.
so confident, like I know what they're saying, and then
There-
it's like, oh no, I
There
don't.
are a couple times where I was like, I'm just gonna get up and grab a glass of water from the fridge, or
Yeah,
like,
'cause I can hear the movie. It's
My
like, I
phone buzz
get
like,
it.
who texted me? Do I need to respond? And then I was like,
Fuck, wait,
I missed like 3 lines of dialogue. Yeah.
damn it.
Um.
Well, everyone enjoy.
Yeah, if you're watching,
It is a fucking good movie. It is a movie
It
I would
is a good movie,
recommend.
but-
It is definitely a movie because I kind of warned you. Like, listen, it's a great film. Weirdly, like it is enjoyable.
sure.
It's worth watching, but it is also like
It's tough, and if you're not in a place to see that kind of devastation, you might want to wait a beat until you
a
watch this
decent
movie.
content warning on
Yeah,
this motion picture.
at the end of the podcast. Not an easy movie
You
to
know what, though?
swallow, but
I'm gonna
but
take-
worthwhile.
I'm gonna take a risk and say I imagine our listenership, probably most of them are familiar or have seen this movie. Because
Yeah.
this was recommended by many of our listeners
it's-
on the Patreon.
Yes, and you guys are smart, and you guys know
You're grown-ups.
You're grown-ups, but if you want to rewatch this movie and you feel like I'm a little fuzzy, I remember Old Boy in these big action sequences. This movie's a lot.
Definitely, but extremely effective, and God knows I will never forget.
Never forget.
I may not ever watch this movie again, but that is not a comment on the quality of the film.
Sure, yeah.
In a fucked up way, I actually really love this movie.
Oh yeah, it's a beautifully told story about absolutely horrifying events, but
Yeah.
um
And also, now that I've had kind of a month to kind of simmer on it and sit on it, now like the initial shock of just what I was watching is kind of
that
like,
ending hits you right in the gut.
woo, it was the double punch. Once again, like the sister and Yusun, once they had died, it was kind of like, okay, well, I guess they could just fucking kill. I'm kind of, no spoilers, but I've been watching The Last of Us, of course, I think as most
Sure.
of us have. And there was an episode where I was like, I should just like not become too emotionally attached to anybody
Yeah,
in this fucking
yeah,
show.
even
I need to learn
though,
my lesson.
I mean, that's not how things work, how effective storytelling
Sure,
works.
but it's
yeah.
like, I guess I just need to be prepared
Well, I mean, 'cause,
emotionally if
look,
this is going to go down.
I knew by the time those two things happened that this movie wasn't going to wrap up in a neat,
Yeah.
happy bow. But yeah, that ending still, when those credits hit, I was still like, ooh, shit. I still had just a pit in the middle of my stomach that I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
this
watch
is-
these credits roll all the way through because I need some time to stare into the middle distance.
Yeah, it's probably good we're recording a rough stuff immediately after this one because we kind of need like the aftermath, like just like the palate cleanser of like, let's switch gears. So
Yeah.
everybody, take care of yourself with this one. Thank you for joining us on this
Yeah.
super heavy movie. You can find me on Twitter at @SK_Griffith.
Yeah. And you can find me on Twitter at Bridget Tweets. That's 3 T's right in the row, right in the middle there.
Thank you to all of our patrons. Thank you for supporting. Thanks for listening in general, but
Yeah.
especially if you're a Patreon supporter of Small Beans. Like I said, I found this movie recommendation in the comment section of a Shooting Threes post. So engage, please comment. A great reason to support the podcast. We read, we take that into consideration. And y'all have turned me on to a movie that, again, weirdly, I truly enjoy. And
Yeah.
I'm excited to be talking about these movies. It's just going to be little heavy.
Little heavy on this one, but great films.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.
Lights, camera, action! We're shooting threes, just SMB. We're gonna watch and review film trilogies. It's all for laughs, so just sit back. We're gonna drop hella dimes on this podcast.